In today's video, I'm going to go over two of the most interesting characters in Baldur's Gate 3's early access that may end up being playable companions and, of course, origin characters. I'll go over a bit about who they are and what we've learned about them, and then I'm going to get into some reasons as to why I think they may be more than just regular old NPCs. Let's jump on in. The first and most obvious likely companion is the tiefling Karlach. The reason why I say likely and not just upcoming companion is because until she's actually a companion, or until Larian publicly announces her as a companion, we can never truly know with 100% certainty. You'll stumble across Karlach on the Risen Road just south of the Toll House. She'll be sitting down on the far side of a small stream, and as you approach, you'll notice that she is clearly injured and also only has one full tiefling horn. Very early on in your dialogue, your minds will telepathically connect. This gives you hints on her backstory, but also indicates that she is infected with a tadpole like yourself and your party members. If you explore more of her dialogue and then help her out by killing a group that is after her, or even if you end up in a situation where you find yourself using Speak with the Dead on her, you can learn a lot about this very interesting character. Karlach is a fugitive who escaped the Hells on the Nautiloid ship that you were held captive on. She fought on the front lines of the Blood War, which is the eternal conflict between devils and demons, and the primary battleground for the Blood War is in Avernus, the top layer of the Nine Hells, the location where the BG3 tutorial takes place in. Karlach was a prisoner forced to fight in the Blood War, but she didn't turn out to be just any old expendable soul fighting away. She turned out to be exceptionally good at killing demons. Her skills gained her the favor of the Archdevil of Avernus, Zariel, and she became one of Zariel's champions.
Wingardium Leviosa. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
According to Karlach, this was all done against her will, but we can't be entirely certain. Karlach claims that she boarded the Nautiloid ship to escape her imprisonment from Zariel, and Zariel wasn't too fond of this decision and has sent some of her minions out to kill her. If Karlach is killed, her soul would be forced to return to Avernus, and she would once again be enslaved by Zariel. Now, why and how Karlach ended up in Avernus in the first place ties into a major event known as the Descent. Long story short, the city of Elturel, which is east of Baldur's Gate, was transported to Avernus. Yes, the entire city was sent to hell. It has since been returned to the material plane, albeit in a very catastrophic state, but several of Elturel's citizens that were in the city would end up dying in Avernus, or end up being enslaved by devils to fight in the Blood War. Specifics on exactly how this all went down for Karlach specifically, and whether or not she's telling us the complete truth, we're going to have to wait to explore more of her dialogue when it becomes available. The reason why Karlach will very likely turn into a playable companion is because if you stay on her good side, she'll tell you that she could use the company of a party, but she first has to get Zariel off her back. She says she's now heading to the city of Baldur's Gate, which is where you, the player, will likely be heading at some point after Act 1. And in the city, she says she's going to settle a score. It is possible that this is just placeholder dialogue, and perhaps when the game officially comes out, Karlach will be able to join your group right then and there. Karlach tells us to stay away from the city because the streets will run with red when she catches up to the ones that did this to her. The event that I talked about before, called the Descent, had a lot of dirty politics behind it that involved not only politicians in Elturel, but also politicians in the city of Baldur's Gate. If I was going to get into all of the details on this, it would take a really long time to do, but do note that I did do an hour-long narration on the story of Descent into Avernus, and I'll leave a link to that below. So we have a character that is infected with a tadpole, that's heading the same way as us for the most part, is on an interesting quest, to say the least, offers to join us at some point, and also has a seemingly very deep backstory, which is of course very important for a companion and an origin character. Now, Karlach is also a tiefling, and we don't currently have a tiefling companion option, which isn't a necessity, but it seems like Larian would probably want to include as many races as they can. But the confusing aspect of Karlach is her class. She's labeled as a fighter, and since we already have Lae'zel, who is a fighter, it makes you wonder if Larian would want two fighter companions. But as most seem to believe, including myself, this fighter class tag is just a temporary tag for Karlach. Karlach could actually be one of the several other classes that will be in the game, and the most likely at this point seem to be Barbarian, Ranger, or Paladin, all classes that we don't currently have access to with companions. Up next is the one and only Daddy Halsin, and shout out to YouTube channel Chublot, who I think is the one that was responsible for data mining Halsin's body without armor on it. Now, Larian Studios did use my body mold for Halsin's model, but I want to give credit to Chublot for the actual PNG image. Now, I do think Halsin is more likely to become a companion and origin character than several of the other characters that we meet in early access, but I also think there is some evidence that points to Halsin not being a companion. Don't cry just yet though, because I'm going to go over that at the end of the video, so you can be happy for now. You'll likely first hear about Halsin in the Druid's Grove, where you learn that he is the first druid of the Emerald Grove, and he has gone missing. You can learn that he had joined up with an adventuring band that was on a quest to find a powerful relic called Night Song, and that the last place that Halsin was seen was at the Goblin Camp, which is where you will likely first meet him, as he's being held captive in the Warg Pens. Now, don't expect an unusually tall and jacked wood elf at first though, as he will be in his bear form. If you help Halsin escape, he will revert wild shape, and you'll get your first official dialogue. Halsin will tell you that he came to the Goblins' camp to try to get answers to what this tadpole affliction is, and he acts surprised when he finds out that not all of the afflicted are working together, meaning that you and your party are not seemingly working with the true souls in the Goblin camp. Halsin had previously encountered a drow that he says he was attacked by, and this drow was infected by a tadpole, but the tadpole was not causing seromorphosis. You can find this dead drow in the Druid's Grove, and Halsin was able to study the tadpole a bit. Because of all this, Halsin went out in search of answers. Most druids, especially those of the Emerald Enclave faction, have a deep hatred for the unnatural, and it's their duty to preserve the balance of nature. This whole tadpole ordeal is certainly not natural, so Halsin feels it is his duty to figure it all out and put an end to it, or so he claims. He also says that he'll help to cure you if you assist him in eliminating the 3 true soul leaders of the Goblin camp. If you do decide to go that route, and why wouldn't you? I only go that route every time I play the game. Halsin will temporarily join your party, which is the first indication of him being a possible companion. And after you kill the true soul leaders, he'll leave your party and you'll meet him back at the Druid's Grove. At the Grove, Halsin delays talking about your cure, which could be seen as a little odd. And then later that night, during the celebration of the Grove being saved by the goblins because of your actions, Halsin will start revealing some more information. He tells you that he has discovered that some form of magic is arresting the seromorphosis process, meaning something is stopping the tadpoles in your brain from morphing you into a mind flayer, and that someone of great power is pulling the strings behind this magic. In order to find a cure, you'll need to find this someone, and Halsin believes that the best place to start is at Moonrise Towers. Halsin then proceeds to give you information on the different routes to get to Moonrise Towers, and also tells you about the dangers that are involved with traveling there. The lands around Moonrise are affected by a shadow curse, and any who linger in this curse will become shadow beings. Perhaps I'll do a lore video on that in the near future, which are tormented and dangerous souls. In the past, Halsin actually fought against a mighty elf by the name of Ketheric Thorm, who led a force of dark justiciars, which are basically a sect in the priesthood of the goddess Shar. Although Ketheric Thorm was defeated, Halsin failed to prevent him from unleashing darkness across the region. Further indication of Halsin being a possible companion comes when he says that he would like to join your camp, and that he also has long sought to return to Moonrise Towers himself to deal with some unfinished business. There's no current way to get Halsin in your party after this point, but he does end up joining your camp. Now, there will be NPCs that become camp followers, and their purpose will be to hang out at your camp and offer services and advice. But it kinda seems like Larian might have more in store for Halsin, but perhaps not. Like Karlach, we have a character that is heading the same way as us, is on a very personal, interesting quest that ties into our quest, has a deep backstory being the first druid of the Grove and also fighting Ketheric Thorm, And also, we can't leave out the fact that we don't currently have a druid companion, nor a wood elf companion, nor a companion that is just seemingly respectful when he talks to you, and I guess you could even say that Halsin is nice? Now let's talk about some reasons as to why Halsin could end up being just a camp follower and not an actual companion. The first reason is that Halsin is the first druid of the Grove for the majority of early access. He is an archdruid. Unless Larian has a way to make sense of this, and perhaps they do, what level would Halsin have to be when he joins our party? Most of us initially meet him when we're party level 3, and then he'll likely become a camp follower when you're party level 4. If Halsin joins the group at this time, for game balancing, he would kinda have to be around level 4 or maybe even 5, which doesn't really make sense for an archdruid. Now, I will point you all to a video created by Harbs Narbs titled, "Why Are the Companions in Baldur's Gate 3 Level 1?" And in this video, Harbs talks about some theories and some data mining stuff that may explain why our current companions are such a low level. It's a really cool video, and it makes me feel like it's definitely possible that Larian could come up with some explanation for Halsin being a low level. I'll leave a link to that video below. It's also possible that Halsin becomes a playable companion much later in the game. We can't technically rule that out, or perhaps he has been level drained by some shadow magic or something of the sorts. Now, he does end up giving up his first druid position, and maybe there's more to this than what he's telling us. Maybe he did lose power and he feels like he can no longer hold that role. Another reason why Halsin may not be a companion is that he is not infected with a tadpole, or at least there's no evidence of this. This doesn't mean that we can't have companions that are tadpole free, but we should at the very least just note that as of now this does kind of go outside of the theme that Larian is currently going with. Since we're on this subject, maybe Halsin does have a tadpole and he's just really good at concealing it. Maybe he was infected while in prison at the Goblin's camp, or perhaps when he was experimenting with the drow at the Grove. Just something to think about. So Karlach and Halsin are the two companions currently in early access that, in my opinion, are the most likely to become playable companions, with Karlach coming out on top. In my next Baldur's Gate 3 video, I'll talk about some other possible companions, but ones that we have a lot less indicators for. Thank you guys so much for watching, and consider joining the Discord server. The link is below in the video description, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.